Good evening, everyone. A hearty welcome to Dr. D. Harikrishna Sir, IEEE MVSR Student Branch Counselor, to Mrs. Subhashini Ma'am, Assistant Professor, CSE Department, MVSR EC, and to Mrs. B. Sarita Ma'am, our esteemed speaker for today's session, and to all the participants to today's webinar on Fundamentals of Data Science, organized by Department of Computer Science and Engineering in association with IEEE MVSR Student Branch, CS Chapter, Women in Computing. Now I request Dr. D. Harikrishna Sir to please address the gathering.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all the participants, Subhashni ma'am and Sarita ma'am, and all the participants who has registered to get a knowledge on fundamentals of data science. IEEE MVSRSB and Computer Society chapter, we are always ready to present all the technical events which impart more knowledge to the student community. In this regard, our IEEE MBSR Student Branch CS chapter, along with Women in Computing, in collaboration with CSE department, has come up with an idea to tell what is data science. So hope all the participants, I am finding more participants out of our college also. So I hope all the participants will get a knowledge on data science, because nowadays these are the buzzing words which are going on. What is data science related to that? And we have been trying to update all the computer science latest techniques, whatever are available, like machine learning or artificial intelligence or data analytics or data science related things. So students, be attentive, and hope you will have a delta improvement in your knowledge, and you'll work further utilizing these knowledge. Thank you. Over to you, Manisha.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Subhashini Ma'am to please address the gathering.
Manisha, maybe his ma'am has got some
Yes,
problem.
ma'am.
Kavita Lakshmi ma'am has joined, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. A hearty welcome to Kavita Ma'am on behalf of IEEE MVSR Computer Society. Now I request Kavita Ma'am to please address the gathering.
Very good evening to all. Warm welcome to this session, everybody. This is very important and latest hot topic. Go through everybody and listen carefully. Uh, um Sarita ma'am is the associate professor from CSC department, MVSR Engineering College. She is having so much of experience. She is doing PhD also. Okay, nice. Happy to hear this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am. Now I request Mrs. B. Sarita Ma'am, our esteemed speaker for today's session, Associate Professor, CSE Department, MVSR Engineering College, MTech CSE Coordinator, and IEEE MVSR CS Advisor, and Research Scholar in JNTU, to please take over the session.
Thank you, Manisha. Just let me know whether you can see my screen or not.
Yes, Ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. It's visible,
Charan,
ma'am.
you have, okay, did you start the recording, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fine. Good evening, one and all. So I'm very happy to see you all in this session. And also I'm very enthusiastic to share my knowledge, what I have, which has been, means I have been trained by my own guide, who is also a mathematician and also a researcher in an area of artificial intelligence. And I give all this credit to my guide as well as God who has shown me him. So now I'm trying to make you understand the basic fundamentals of data sciences. So in the process, I'll be telling you from where another wing of science has come into the picture. I'll not be able to complete all of the aspects of the data science, but I can give you the basic flow of data science. Right, now I'll be starting the presentation. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask at the end of the session. Yeah. I hope you can see the screen.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
fundamentals to data science. Thanks, ma'am. Fundamentals to data science. So this is a buzzword today we are seeing, and I feel little bit ambiguity in telling you that data science is actually a new word, but the stuff which is hidden as a definition of data science is old, which is actually being introduced right from the introduction of artificial intelligence. So just I want to tell you today's world, how data science is used, in which areas it is being used. So in simpler way, you can see all these pictures where data science is playing a major role in our area of health sciences, in our area of healthcare, medical sciences, healthcare, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, stock exchange, and many more applications. You are seeing the presence of data science. So what is this data science is? So data science can be divided into two parts over here. One is data, another one is science. Your science here, we are completely concentrating on mathematical sciences, and without the combination of mathematical sciences, there is no data science. And data science may be simply defined, very informally defined, as a discipline that is said to utilize the combination of mathematics, statistics, computational tools to acquire the process and then analyze the data. Now, when coming to data, previously also we had data, now also we have data. What's the big deal with this data? This is the first point you should be getting in your mind. How you are going to answer this particular query? So in my view, data is the one which is actually driving us into today's world. Previously, we also used to have the computer system. We used to have inputs, we used to have outputs, but these were in a conventional manner, where human used to be involved into the loop, where the then computers were said to be slow, were less smarter, and upon all of these things, the greatest difference what we have today when it is compared to the olden days, probably in early 90s, is the data, amount of data and the type of data, right? Amount of data and type of data. So what is the major difference between the previous data and means the data which was being used for any complex problem solution using computer system, and what is about today's data? So basically, today's data we are no more calling as a conventional data, but we are calling it as big data. We are calling it as what? Big data. So big data is another very big ocean where if you want to know, it will become another one big area where you can dig in and then you can become master. So before between 2010 and 2015, whatever data used to be there, it was small. Added to small, one more metric I can add, that data was structured in nature. Data was structured in nature. This is the reason why actually we have moved on to the data science, which is actually described, as I told you just now, it as a combination of mathematical, statistical, and computational tool to acquire a process and then analyze the data. So here, instead of data, I should always call it as a big data. Why big data means? Nowadays, data is not structured. Whatever data is being collected, this is said to be collected in huge volumes. So today's data, which is actually called as big data, as I told you, the same old stuff, but the new buzzing words have been given according to the need of the industry. So now I can say that the data which was structured previously now is called as unstructured and semi-structured. And this is being collected so fast that people started measuring this in metrics called volume, velocity, and variety. As I told you, this is another big area where you need to explore if you want to become one of the part of a data science area. So here you can see a graph how the need of knowledge of data science is growing in the industry. You can see that before 2000, late 90s, the data, whatever used to be executed for the purpose of solutions of different problems in different domains, the data was structured data. What do you mean by structured data? Structured data is said to be having a data type, and this can be stored into a database. This will be having a location, it will be having a description. This is what is structured data. But when the technology has been improved and the internet has become a very important aspect of the life, the unstructured data started growing. So what are the sources of unstructured data? I say the combination of all of our data, which includes text, which includes images, videos, okay, all of these things, maybe pictures, different kinds of pictures, the combination of all these things, which is not said to be stored in one particular location, where this data will not be given any specific data type. Those type of data we are calling as unstructured or semi-structured data. So we have got certain procedure in order to convert this unstructured data to structured data, and then it needs to be processed. So that's the reason we are saying now the data as big data directly. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Today, data science is understood in different perspectives, in terms of algorithm, in terms of data, in terms of processing, in terms of domain. The main aim of a data scientist should be that he should be knowing how he is supposed to be put in an order, so that for his goal to be reached, he or she should be understanding what is the first step for any problem to solve and what is the last step to solve, and in between what are the processing sequence what a data scientist should be understanding. So my main goal is to make you understand these steps. So data science is a buzzword for us. Again, we are landing up in old concept called artificial intelligence, right? So as of now, data scientist is set to solve many ecosystem problems. So why it is able to solve so many problems, even though it is having huge data, like billions of entities which are received from customers who are being using different services like Twitter, Facebook, etc. and etc. And you can read through all these things. These are not that important. Just to tell you in what amount of data science is been used, I wanted you to understand. Second one is trillions of interactions. So this includes certain devices like sensors, banking transactions, services, applications, etc. And we have certain interdependent, hundreds of interdependent metrics, like we have got WhatsApp conversations, we have got many business and environmental transactions, we have got many real-time decision making every day. Like if a big mall, IKEA wants to introduce one particular, IKEA want to introduce one particular product, on what basis this IKEA people are going to introduce that particular product? If at all they are introducing, in how many number they are going to introduce, and how many number they are daring to put in as a display. All these things are actually taken into consideration after the study of the previous data. Previous data means here I am talking about the sales data with respect to each and every item which is being sold by IKEA, right? So I have named only one particular big organization. Just imagine the same thing is happening with respect to different branches of different companies. Like we have got Big Bazaar, we have got Spencer, all these things based on the area demand. One is actually going to take the real-time decision whether to withdraw from certain items or they have to introduce certain new items. And then they are going to even invest the same concept in solving some research problems also. So keeping all these things in our mind, now I am in a point where I can tell you that data science is said to be driven by two components. One is data and another one is automation. As I told you, data science main aim is to develop an application which is said to be automated in nature. Based on which this automation is happening, based on data, this automation is happening. Just we'll have a glance on this data now. Now, what is the data and in how many ways this data can be used? So this data can be used for quality assurance. This can be used to generate certain patterns which may be used for taking certain decisions in real-time systems in an area of business, in an area of research, something like that. And then it is also moving on to the areas such as automated bidding system, automated driving, and this is being done between machine and machines. And the most important one is the data is playing key role to have the predictions. How this prediction is done, I'll tell you step by step in different areas or in different domains, we can say. So data is used for these many purposes. Now, going into technical area, as I told you, data science lands up in same old concept of artificial intelligence. So data science works with the concept of artificial intelligence. What do you mean by artificial intelligence? A very simple rule I am going to tell you. Artificial intelligence is a combination of an agent, rational agent more precisely, plus programming. Rational agent and programming can be compared with a human being and his thought processing, his or her thought processing. Agent here, rational agent is compared with a human being, where human being always try to take decision based on his or her previous experiences, right? And then he has got ability, he or she, human being has got ability to have thought processing of what things which are being observed and what things which are being experienced by him or her. Based on this, the decision will be taken. In the same way, when we expect a machine to do the same thing as a human being, machine is supposed to be programmed. Once the machine is programmed, then machine should be given inputs right from starting point, like If you are giving some X, you need to write about X. What is X? Why X is being defined? For what X is being defined? Something like that. But for a human being, these all things are not needed because we have got supernatural power which has been given by supernatural Almighty to think these automatically and then take a decision, right? So whenever I am walking on a road and I see at a junction a red light, immediately I will stop myself. The reason is I have got used to this particular situation right from my childhood. Whenever I move onto the road and I am at a traffic light, I see whenever there is a red light, I need to stop. So without any thought process, immediately I will stop because this is the experience which has guided me to stop. When I will start again walking, whenever I see the green light glowing, something like that. So another best example of artificial intelligence is if a small child is trying to walk for the first time, maybe for the first time he will not be standing directly. Probably that kid will be falling down. And gradually, after 10 or 15 times for every action, the child will be learning how to stand, how the balance should be made on his two legs, whether he or she is supposed to take support of any object adjacent to him or her, something like this. The actions will be recorded in the brain of human being. Now, the same thing, if a robot has supposed to be done, each and every action should be placed with a combination of hardware and software inside the process. Right, this is what is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is composed of machine learning, and machine learning is composed of deep learning. So I'll tell you how machine learning is extended to deep learning. So in reverse manner, you can say something like this: deep learning is subset of machine learning, and machine learning is subset of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is what now I can tell you, and I hope you can understand that it is simply can be defined as a program that can give the reasons, actions, and also use certain logics to take certain decisions. And what is machine learning? Machine learning is a theory as of now. Machine learning is a technology or a theory that is going to make us learn on huge data set, and different kinds of algorithms are being used in order to predict based on the data what we have been given as a input. And as and when the techniques we are using is actually involved in deep complexity, then we are shifting to the specialization of the machine learning, and that we are calling as deep learning. So deep learning is also a program that is used to train and create a train model, and then it is used for the prediction. So deep learning is subset of machine learning, and machine learning is subset of artificial intelligence. So overall, how data science is related to it? Data science is nothing but, again, it is confined to the fundamental definition of artificial intelligence, where it is involved with data and automatization. So gradually I'll be proving you that. And I'll be telling you how these all are related to each other, right? So as I told you, data science is using machine learning so that it can solve certain business problems. And artificial is the one which is said to be using machine learning to mimic human intelligence. This is the basic relationship between data science, artificial intelligence. So which technology or which concept is tying up the data science and artificial intelligence? It is machine learning. That's the reason today we are seeing whichever domain you go, there is a demand of machine learning. And who is called as a data scientist? The data scientist is the one who have knowledge, enough of knowledge in area of AI, ML, so that scientists can solve the problem, solve the business problem, more precisely, solve the business problem. So now I'll go through one step on another after another step. I'm going to tell you how artificial intelligence is going to mimic human intelligence. What are the different tasks artificial intelligence going to take up? So normally this I have taken a AI stack to make you understand how a problem can be solved using the artificial intelligence. Before that, we'll see the evaluation of AI products down the line from the basic products which we have seen automated right from our late 90s to today. So initially, the type of products like washing machine and cars have come into the industry, which has used the basic concepts of artificial intelligence, where the data was very less. The scope of problems to give certain solutions was very small. Then gradually, in mid area of 2000 and 2010, we have seen the improvement in the service of internet. And gradually, the importance of search engines have been increased. So the product where AI was initially introduced in order to take the decisions and give out the required information to the customers was Google search, YouTube. And this has been gradually increased to face more complex ecosystem problems, and those includes smart cities, entire telecommunication system, entire refineries, agriculture ecosystem of country, which may be including the supply chain system of seeds, fertilizers. Added to this, weather forecasting. Added to this, it is also including certain major business applications in our area of banking, online shopping, what we call it as e-commerce. And today, these all are done. These all are in its way of reaching the level of maturity. But today, most of the AI is being invested, most of the money on AI techniques is being invested in an area of healthcare system and medical system. So I feel this is one of the reasons where we have got the COVID medicine or COVID vaccine in an earlier stage, where they can compute the possibilities and then they can see what are the outcomes, whether they are coming in a positive way or a negative way. If at all it is negative, how they can be fixed in. All these things are expected to be done using artificial intelligence because of today's high-speed components and high-speed intelligent computers we have got. And these are included with even quantum computers also these days. So these are the different products which have been seen right from early 20s to today in the industry. So keeping this in mind, AI is being defined with 8 different layers of a stack, where AI is involved in solving all these content of each layer. So initially, first very important point of involvement of AI in data science is handling the data. Smart way of handling the data. What is the main job of data scientist is to identify the data, to interpret the data, and this can be done with the help of concepts of artificial intelligence. So data interpretation is our first important layer of AI stack, where data interpretation is going to help in interpreting raw data. Like as I told you just now, when I walk on a road and I reach a traffic signal point, as soon as I see the red light, I stop. Let us say I drive a car. As soon as I see a red light, I'll apply brakes on my car. I apply brakes. And immediately when I see it's going to get released with a green light, then again I start my car. So this is what the interpretation of the data our human brain is undergoing with a data called red color and blue color. We don't even think for a fraction of a second to do that particular job. So as a human being, that red color and blue color are said to be the raw data. These are images for me. This image is actually driving my brain to do certain action. Why I am doing this, why I'm able to do this, the reason is I have experienced this many number of times. So as soon as I see this particular image, I start doing that particular respective action. So I hope you have understood the importance of interpretation of the data. In this way, every domain problem has got certain data, and while solving the problem of data, or while solving the problem of that particular domain, every system should interpret the data at every level in its own aspect. That's the reason I said the first layer of AI stack is focusing on interpretation of data, today's data more concentratingly. Why today's data? Because today's data is no more a structured data, but it is a unstructured data. In order to interpret the data, it is going to apply really high level semantics so that it can convert that into low level semantics. Again, this is a very big ocean where you'll be seeing its presence in understanding of the concepts of big data. So just I am leaving this down here. And the semantics, whatever we are going to use to convert this into low level from its high level, is actually done using the processing pattern of machine level or machine learning algorithms. And AI makes this particular automated system to behave just like a human being, as human being is having a capability of interpreting multiple things at a single input. Now, if a machine is capable of doing the same thought, then it is really said to be appreciated. So data interpretation, I have been telling you about our observations and then the reactions of this and brain automatically. We don't even think how we have done that. So the basic today's applications where we are seeing these interpretations are used is in the area of visual data, means computer vision area. So in an area of computer vision, you can see the problem like facial expression recognition, which is being executed in a really appreciable manner, and then comes the object detection and recognition. And you know, in this pandemic situation, people have used this data interpretation concept, and they started detecting the patients who are COVID affected and not COVID not affected using the face. Not in India, of course, in other countries. And the same object detection and recognition we are also seeing in our Department of Traffic Police, in order to identify who is wearing the helmet, who is not wearing the helmet, and the vehicles who are crossing the speed of the limit at that particular given time. All these things are being done using the concept of data interpretations. Added to this, we are also using this concept in our area of entertainment and online business, or else e-commerce, you can say. Like if you see this picture, we all know that this picture has come from Sholay. right? So seeing this picture, I can simply generate my memory saying that, okay, these two are the actors who has played in Sholay movie as friends, and this is the pic which has been taken from a song in that particular movie. So if the same sort of multiple outputs have been coming from a simple image, a simple input to my brain, then is it possible for a machine to generate the same thing as soon as if a engine given this particular picture? Nowadays it has become true. Yes, as soon as you give this particular picture into a recognition system, content recognition system, immediately it will search this particular pic from the frame of the movie, and then it will give certain output like this. People, it will be giving certain data. It will be giving where, means at what particular situation this picture is being picked from. Musical location, it is outdoor and village. Action, it is bike riding and singing. Sentiment, it is happy. So this is another example of data interpretation, which is coming into the area of a very big area. Now it has become that we are calling it as content recognition. And coming to the fourth example, I'm showing you here as a very familiar example in our e-commerce. Now, in a world of fashion imaging, if one particular person wants to buy one particular dress, then this particular dress, according to availability, will be given certain inputs. These are certain inputs where these are said to be for this particular input, certain multiple outputs are being defined. Now, as soon as I see as a human being, I can generate all these things. Now, scientists have made it possible that as soon as this particular picture is given to an engine, that engine will be able to give me the output which is really very nearer to my brain output. So when one particular automated system is said to be accepted, normally we are saying when it is satisfied by the human being, when it can say that the answers are being given by the human being, not by the computer. So this sort of testing in artificial intelligence we call as Turing test. So if any solution which is being defined for a given problem is being satisfied by the human being, or are said to be passing this Turing test, then we are saying that particular solution or that particular problem is said to be accepted. So this is the first layer of interpretation layer. And next comes controllability. Next comes the understanding causalities. What is this causalities? Whenever you are being given certain problem, in that particular problem, in order to give a solution, you should understand what are the inputs, what are the causes of changes in that particular inputs, what happens if you make certain changes in given inputs in its values, and what sort of outputs you are going to get. So for instance, here there is a simple example of physics which is showing us the concept of projectile motion of a object thrown from one particular point. So here we are seeing in this particular physics concept, what is the measure or what is the distance of that particular object which has been traveled when it is thrown at one particular height. So for this, what are the metrics you are going to consider? Normally we consider the height, we consider the velocity, we consider the angle in which the data is being thrown, we consider the objection, what the object is going to see, which can be understood in terms of the wind speed, what is the air resistance, etc. and etc. So these are the actual causes which I am going to hold to measure the output. So keeping all these things in mind as in my observations to consider, to draw the solution, what sort of solutions I can get? I can get the results as the distance the object has been traveled and what is the maximum height at which the object has reached, and the amount of time taken for this particular object to reach the ground. So I can say that now I can have a study on this using a automated machine. Like whenever I change certain height, I can make an observation whether I can have a difference in my results like distance, maximum height, and time. Whenever I change my angle, I can make a difference in understanding what is my, now the distance would be distance of the object which it has traveled, what would be the maximum height, and what will be the time. So these are certain casualties which we have to consider. Like this, under this understanding casualty, which is a very, very, very important aspect of a data scientist who has to work with domain expert to understand the interactions between whatever metrics or whatever reasons we are going to capture as data inputs. I repeat once again, understanding casualty is a layer in our AI task, which is practically needed to be done in combination of data scientist and domain expert so as to understand the type of interactions, level of interactions, and casualties, as well as the correlations between the casualties. What is this correlations? If I change one particular metric, then I can observe certain changes happening. Now I can also observe if I have a combination of two metrics being changed parallelly. I can give the correlation between the changes of these one or more number of metrics in finding out the different results, right? So for that reason, I told you understanding casualty is very important in order to identify the relationship between the input and the observed outputs. So here the study is going to make us create or compute very good automated system. So for a physician or for a physicist, this is a problem called projectile motion. But for a data scientist, it is not that. For a data scientist, he has to look at every aspect of the input, how every input is actually related with rest of the inputs, whether they are having some interdependency, whether they are the independent. All these studies are to be made, and then the data scientist has to construct a model in such a way that with whatever input might be, exact correct output can be drawn from that particular model. So there are certain information inside of data which is said to be of no use, like it doesn't have any cause for its existence. Like you can see the gender, age. In our behavior, you can see if you are talking about the month, the data is there, it is there, that's all. Probably it is not having any relationship with one of the other set of columns or other set of features of that particular data or data set, right? So this way, the other type of casualties where you have to differentiate is certain features which may be said to be independent in nature. Sometimes these features are going to help in building the better solution, and sometimes these will be causing the downfall of the solution. So you have to understand how well these are related for the building of a good model. So that's the reason we are actually understanding the type of casualties. Sometimes it is possible that you will be having multiple number of features for given problem, like a disease there are different features like genetics, lifestyle, immunity, nutrition, transmitted, environment, season. Take the example of COVID itself. COVID is a disease. What is the lifestyle you are having? Do you have a nightlife? Do you go often outside? If you are going often outside, are you maintaining the COVID rules? Are you immune to the system? Are you taking nutrition food? Is it is it that you have exposed to COVID patient or COVID area or some certain red area? Which environment you are in? What is the seasonal diseases you are having, to just filter out the causes, whether you are really suffering with COVID or not, and your genetic data. So all these things sometimes are very important. Now coming to today's scenario in our pandemic, probably lifestyle, genetics, seasonal, environment, these are not going to help us a lot. Instead of using all these 7 features, for me, these features are important. Like, did you get exposed to already COVID patient? If at all it is so, there is a chances of transmission. Are you taking a nutrition data? Probably this is also not that important at a time of understanding whether the COVID is actually induced into that particular patient or not. Immunity is another important aspect. Why these two are more depending on each other to define the disease? The reason is, even though a patient got exposed to the COVID area or a COVID patient, if at all he is having enough immunity, there is a chance that this particular patient will not be affected with COVID. Probably that will be no, sometimes it is mild. If at all his or her immunity is less, probably it is a cause for the infection. So this how in existing multiple factors, we should be able to understand which particular factors are interdependent and which combination would give us better decision taking aspect, etc. and etc. Now this is another example where we are seeing in a world of telephone lines. If there is a call drop, what might be the reason for this call drop? Suddenly we'll be talking to our friend, there will be disconnection of the call. What might be the reasons of this disconnection? So whenever we get the disconnection, as soon as we get the disconnection, we thing comes into our brain that if everything is going well, we feel there are no signals. There is a decrease in signal. That's the reason there is a call drop. So these are human assumptions. But when it is going to the evaluation for an automated system, these are the things which are going to help in understanding what are the actual reasons for the call drop. So the one more type of casualty, what the system needs to understand as human being understand is the multiple factor. Added to multiple factor, we also having cumulative casualties, which is actually constructed based on a concept called supply and demand. And you know it, supply and demand, it's in e-commerce or else in any business. You can see a product is put in large in number whenever there is a demand, otherwise it won't be done. You can go through it. I'll share this things to you. And as and when the complexity of your problem is moving on, is growing, we are going into the observation of deep casualties. And these deep casualties may be bifurcated something like this, which are the combination of previous casualties, what we have been seeing. Like we have been seeing, what are the incentives, what are the organic. Now this is a simple example of Uber. Let us say we'll take the example of Uber. In an industry of these cabs, cab drivers should be given intensive incentives he should be given offers. And in a given area, if a customer is trying to look for the availability of a cab, and on what particular basis the service provider is going to supply that particular cab in that particular area, it is going to be decided based on number of available cabs in that particular area and what is the demand in that particular area. And many a times we have experienced in our past days when things were really normal, that whenever there is a high demand and less number of cabs, we have seen increase in the prices of the cabs, rents of the cabs. That is because the supply was less and demand was more. So this, how they have come to that conclusion, how the system has come to the conclusion to raise the prices by understanding these casualties, that in that particular area there is huge demand but there are less number of cabs. That's the reason the prices have been hiked. So in the same way, most of the metrics, whatever you are seeing, can be actually assigned or can be used for the understanding of one particular system. Added to this, we have got a few more casualties like dependency based casualties, which actually defines the prerequisites concepts, and temporal casualties, which actually going to depend on what happens in a past is going to reflect us, and then accordingly we can predict the things. For example, if a person has bought a printer, now let us say at one particular moment in an area of printers, let us say 10 people have bought the printer. Now based on that, one can actually calculate what will be the business for the product called as cartridge in certain period. If at all the idle usage of that particular existing cartridge is being done by that particular user. So normally whoever is buying the printer, since there is a need, the printers have been bought. So on average, there is possibility that after the completion of cartridge, in a duration of 2 months or 3 months, according to the life or capacity of that particular cartridge, again the business would be coming for that particular product. Okay, that particular product. So this is about the second layer of AI, and that we are calling as the casualties. And the third come prediction. So this is a simple example of creation of the model which is able to predict what the output is. This is being done based on the given inputs. As I told you in previous slide of a projectile motion, for a physicist, that is only a solution of the concept called projectile motion. But for a data scientist is having a study of observing the window for various aspects, and then this observation is done based on the type of features he is including for his model, and then he is also predicting the date. He is also predicting with his model what is the estimated time, and added to this, put together, he is going to even create a model which can predict the appropriate output. So this is what the actual job of data scientist would be. And this data is said to be not structured and not simple in manner, but it is said to be complex in nature. And why it is called as complex? Because we are dealing with big data in data science. Now, for your information, I have inserted this slide. There are different kinds of predictions, and I have listed these. One type of prediction model is proactive intervention model, which is having its presence in an area of constructing a model like healthcare area, and then it is also looking at certain critical alarm prediction, like whenever there is a burglary or whenever there is a fire accident or whenever there is unwanted or unusual thing happening in an environment, if an alarm is set up and the alarm goes, it means that the system is working properly. The second type of prediction system is precise optimization. This is coming into the area of optimization. The examples are the solutions like stock, price predictions, demand forecasting. All these things are coming into the picture. The third one is personalization decision, where we all see this in an area of real-time systems. And then we have got a predict to model causality. And this particular prediction system is the one which is helping us to understand the cause of that particular output. So these are different kinds of predictions. Okay, this is an example of the prediction using causalities. Like for a call drop prediction model, the type of inputs we are using is using our network load, indoor, outdoor, motion or stationary, means a person is in motion or a stationary form, what device it is being used, what is the coverage of that particular service, whether there is an interference or not. All these things are given into the prediction model, and according to the trained model, the output is being given and output is said to be predicted. The same thing can be done in the area of refinery also. And next part of the layers of AI tasks are explanation. See, one should be able to make the other person understand what is going on in his research or what is going on in his model construction. So for that, the idea of explaining this in a correct way, which can explain the root cause of the problem, what are the measures which are being taken to solve that problem, what are the considerations which have been considered in order to solve the problem, all those things are supposed to be clearly explained at the customer level. So AI requires explanation stack or explanation layer after the prediction. And once the explanation is being done, generally this type of explanations are done using analysis called as SHAP analysis. So this is another big area, like how we are going to define the explanation. And next comes controllability. This controllability is going to give the relationship between input and output, like the observations we make when I change some number of inputs simultaneously, what sort of output would be coming. The observabilities, all these things are supposed to be done, and accordingly the model is supposed to be shaped upon. Once all these above 5 layers have been done, now we are in a situation to understand what are the effects of using existing inputs and what are the results when I use the correlationship between the data features, I mean to say. All these are done practically, implemented, and then they are supposed to be giving the output. That process we are calling as a simulation. After the simulation, if needed, we have to go for the optimization. Like instead of going right from one point to the another point, if you are having an ability to choose the smart one, the shortest one, then that particular method we are calling it as optimization. This is another very big area to learn and then to implement. And last comes the adaptation. So whenever you have got a clear understanding of relationship between all the aspects what we have been discussing till now is done, then we are going for re-optimizations, and eventually we will be reaching one particular point where the product is said to be ready for prediction, or model is said to be ready for correct prediction in given environment. Right. So those are the things which are coming under the AI. You can see what sort of things we have seen in AI. AI is included with data interpretation, understanding the casualties, or simply you can say understanding the features, then using these features for the prediction. Once the prediction model is created, then we should be able to explain this reasons and causes of the prediction, and then you have to observe the combinations of your inputs, then apply for the implementation using some simulation. Then if necessary, if you can reduce the execution aspect, then we can go for the optimization, and eventually we can adapt our system to call as a best one. So this is the journey of AI, which we assume data is supposed to be presented in form of a digit. So data is said to be digitized. Once we complete the understanding of artificial intelligence, we are moving to machine learning. So machine learning, what is the main aim of machine learning? As I told you, as we have understood that artificial intelligence and data scientist is tied up with a tool called as machine learning. So what is the main aim of machine learning? Machine learning is something like brain learning. You can map how brain learns about certain thing. Now, seeing this particular picture, my brain can easily understand and differentiate, or I can categorize saying that there are blue grapes, there are green grapes, there are, let me say, there are something like pinkish grapes, right? So I can see the picture and simply say that there are 3 categories of grapes. Now, if I am asked to say out of these 3 categories, which one is sweeter, I cannot say it because I don't have option of eating them, right? I cannot taste them and say that they are sweet. So then how I can construct a model? I can construct a model which can predict whether green is sweet, my black is sweet, or this pinkish grape is sweet by the previous data. So this previous data should be given as input to the machine learning, right? So what are the components which we are going to consider for a machine learning framework? We are going to look into machine learning inputs, means the features what we are going to consider. Second one, we are going to consider the data model. And the third one, we are going to consider the machine learning output. After that, you have to evaluate the success of this particular output. So in what terms you are going to evaluate the success, or what terms you are going to evaluate the output. So that we are calling as measure of success. So how we are going to do this? My next question is how we are going to do this. So machine learning is said to be a model which has been generated by the algorithms. By the way, what algorithm mean? You all might be knowing. Algorithm is a set of rules or instructions that is followed by a computer or any other object when it is performing certain task, right? Algorithm is what? Algorithm is a set of rule or instructions. Who are following this? Algorithm is being followed by a computer or any other object when it is performing certain task. And algorithm is going to have what? Or algorithm consists of what things inside it? Algorithm consists of certain parameters, basically, which can be understood as certain settings. What these settings are? The adjustments what we can make to this particular parameters we are calling as settings. And these parameter setting is going to enable the computer to learn from the data at every point of time. At every point of time. Simultaneously, we reach to our required output. And then we finally will try to fix the model, right? So this is how the machine learning is going to be understood as. So for your information, machine learning is of different types. And before we go to that particular types of machine learning, I want to show you certain case studies in an area of healthcare system. Like a patient is there, a patient data is being collected using certain sensors, and then this data is being gone for the processing. Processing is nothing but thought processing in our brain. When data is collected with our do's and don'ts, with our observations, with our experiences, we'll be able to analyze, and then we'll be able to take the decision. And then with the decision we have taken with our thought processing, we'll be able to put that decision in order, right, or in action. And this is being put into action means this is said to be implemented by the health professional on patient. Now, if a patient is suffering with some X disease, in order to diagnose and further go with a treatment and reliable treatment and suggestion, data, relevant data is collected. Once the relevant data is collected, this relevant data is said to be collected using, in this particular context, it is being collected using certain inputs like GPS, ECG, certain things like BP, sugar, etc. All these things are being collected probably physically, manually, or else using certain sensors. All is possible today with the addition of concepts of IoTs. So taking this into consideration as basic units or basic inputs, data is processed and then decision is taken. And this decision is going to give us in a terms of diagnosis and then predicting the status of the health of a patient. Status of a health of a patient. Accordingly, the treatment and suggestions are being written by the doctor. Now, once these are being prescribed, these are supposed to be implemented by the health care workers or health caretakers in order to make the patient recover. So here we are concentrating a concept called as content. Content of the data, whatever we are taking as a input. As long as this data is correct, then we will be landing up in getting the correct answer of decision. And once the correct answer of decision is come, the next part of it is to implement. Added to this, we also have got one more example in our area of healthcare system, where overall the machine learning steps are said to be executed in this sort of layering. First, we consider the data set and we go for data pre-processing, and then we select the features. As I told you, we have got n number of features. We try to pick only those features which are relevant to our work. For that, we will be going for optimizations, or we are going for certain dimensional reduction procedures or algorithms, you can say. I'll show you what those algorithms are. And then once the features are finalized, the whole set of data is being divided into two parts. training data set and testing data set. Now, based on this training data set, model is being constructed, and using this testing, the measure of the output is being evaluated. So, when the accuracy of this testing data set is given appreciable way, then we are saying the whole system as a diagnostic system. So for this particular example, the technologies or techniques which are being used here, data mining and soft computing techniques. So data mining is generally used whenever you have got huge data. When it is not possible to handle that huge data by data mining technique, we'll be moving on to big data techniques. This is the relation we have got. So once the system is done, we'll be going for the evaluation. Now coming down to the understanding of types of machine learning algorithms. Initially, machine learning algorithms are broadly divided into two categories. One is supervised and another one is unsupervised. Supervised means, just keep in your mind that a teacher guiding a student, means supervised algorithms are those algorithms which are having process of guidance, how input data is supposed to be used for training, and then how the testing data is used for the output aspect. So here, how you are claiming that the supervised algorithm is said to be guided algorithm, because the target values here, the goal points here are said to be already described. In a world of machine learning, we call this as labeled. Target features or target columns we are calling as labeled values. And in supervised algorithms, we are going to differentiate our data in form of discrete and continuous. So if at all you are having discrete type of data, the type of algorithms which are coming under supervised type, we are calling it as classification algorithm. And if at all it is continuous in nature, we call them as regression algorithms or regression procedure we are going to use. So here you need to understand exactly the data, because we are differentiating type of supervised algorithm based on the type of input data. So what is the type of input data here we are having? What is the type of input data we are having? The type of input data is taken from the, or you can say the data what we are considering is said to be taken from a table. And what table consists of? Table consists of rows and columns. And every row here in our data set is called as an either observation or it is called as an sample. Whereas when it is coming to understanding of column can be called as a feature. Column can be called as a feature. So from this table, what we are doing, as I have shown you the previous example, from this table, every feature is said to be a column. From this particular table, what we have finalized as data set to find the solution or to fix the model, we are going to define a portion of table data as a training data set, and this is represented in form of a feature matrix. Why we are actually defining that in terms of feature matrix? This is a terminology what we normally come across when you are really working in an area of machine learning. Why we call it as matrix? Because here we have got more than one number of dimension. And the next portion of information that we want to predict, we call here as a target vector. As I told you, supervisory is going to have guidance, and the guidance is being defined with the presence of labeled data. This labeled data normally we call as a target column or a target feature. Why we are calling it as a vector? Because this target vector or target feature is said to have or said to be described in more than one dimension. That's the reason we are calling it as a vector. And coming to next type, unsupervised. In unsupervised, we are saying, unlike supervised, here we don't have any guide, means no labeled data is said to be given in our input data set. In fact, we are given different kinds of data where when you write a program is expected to learn the features and then it is going to finalize what the target would be. So the type of algorithms here you are going to see is clustering algorithms, and the second one is associations. Association is the one which actually helps the programmer to find relationship between or among existing features. And this was the initial description of the types of machine learning. But today, added to these, we are seeing couple of more learning algorithms coming into the picture. And the third one, we are calling that as semi-supervised learning. And fourth one, we call it as reinforcement learning. You can see, if at all, if you are not a first year student or if you are having knowledge of machine learning, some or other time you might have come across these kinds of algorithms. You can see Naive Bayes, linear regression, logical regression, K nearest neighbors, SVM, decision tree, random forest, boosting. All these things all these algorithms are coming under supervised learning. So we can actually get one more webinar in order to understand each and every method. And under unsupervised learning, we have got principal component analysis, we have got linear discriminant analysis, and then we have got clustering analysis, clustering algorithm, then we have got Markov algorithm, neural networks, semi-supervised learning, and then we have got reinforcement learning. That's the reason from here, this unsupervised learning, I want you to understand how we are actually moving to from machine learning to deep learning. And for your information, just I'll tell you that aspect just in a moment. Now, seeing this semi-supervised learning, it is said that few of the data is said to be given label values and few of the data is not being given label values. That's the reason it is called as a semi-supervised, which is said to be really complex in nature. So large portion of data is said to have unlabeled data, whereas the small portion of data in semi-supervised is said to have target vectors. So what is the basic disadvantage of this is it is going to take long time to fix the model. That's the reason this particular method or this particular semi-supervised algorithm is said to be complex in nature. And it is said to use all defined above type of unsupervised and supervised algorithm according to requirement. The combination it will take up. Now coming to reinforcement learning is said to be defined based on action reward system. It is just like it is going to concentrate what is the present state. Once you apply the action, what is the result? If the result is positive, we are saying that this particular action is going to grab one positive reward. If the action is given negative output, then it is said to have negative reward. Like this, if there are 100 trials happening for one particular action to take prediction, and in that particular 100, if 70 actions are being given positive rewards and 30 actions have been given negative reward, for the success of that particular action, the program is going to consider those 70 positive rewards as an experience, and it will take decision to follow those actions to reach the positive reward or the success rate of that particular action. Just like a small boy, whenever he is trying to drink or whenever he is trying to hold a glass, unknowingly there is a hot water or hot milk inside that particular glass. Initially, without knowing, he will catch hold of the glass which is hot. Immediately, there is a tendency that the child may drop the glass. So this will be learned as a negative experience. In the language of reinforcement learning, we call it as a negative reward. And in next attempt, when the child sees the glass, and if the child remember the previous experience, definitely the child will not be daring to touch that glass. But if at all the child touch the glass, again it is hot, again he will drop. This is a negative one, right? So like this, sometimes negative is going to lead us to understand what not to do, and positive is going to lead us to say what has to be done to reach the appreciable success. So these success rates are going to help to fix a proper model. So this is a procedure what we are going to use in our reinforcement learning. So this is still machine learning. Now, the one more point I told you, how we are going to land up in deep learning. When you are using neural networks is said to be one of the method or one of the algorithm which is coming under unsupervised algorithm. There are different kinds of neural networks. One we are calling as feed-forward neural networks, multi-layered perceptron, we familiarly call it as MLP. And when we are looking at this multi-layer perceptrons, we have got three scenarios. What are those three scenarios means? We have got input layer and output layer. Between these two, input layer and output layer, we have got one more layer called as hidden layer. And there is a query for a given problem, how many number of hidden layers can be fixed upon with. And normally this size of input layer and size of hidden layer and output layer depends on the number of features we are holding with that particular problem and size of the data set. And as long as your hidden layer is less than 100, we can say that type of algorithm as multi-layer perceptron algorithm. But if neural network with many hidden layers more than 100 may be referred as deep neural network, and their fields from then will be called as deep learning, right? Now these fields are used to have deep learning. This is how the machine learning has got its own specialization called as deep learning. In simpler words, you can say that as and when the complexity of problem is growing, the type of learning methodology is also being shifted. So this is about machine learning and deep learning. Now we are left with the third component called data science. Now data science, as I told you, it is a combination of mathematics. It is a combination of mathematics. I hope you remember that. And what else we have got? Mathematics, statistics, and computation. All these three elements are there composed into your data science in order to solve existing problem automatically. So the second component of data science is what? Automatization, automated solution. So data is being used in order to fix up automated solution for the existing problem given the domain, given the area. So today we are in a world of need of more number of data scientists. Only for you to understand and have a idea, data science is actually playing a major role in an area of automobile industry. You know how it is. You have seen Tesla, the features of Tesla in a field of IT. All your apps, right from deciding whether a loan can be approved or not. This is the simplest existing problem which has been automated. Then we have got healthcare system, means the role of data science included in healthcare system in maintenance of health of a patient. Then we are seeing the procurement usage of weapons, the same data science in establishment of implementation of taken decision in area of army. We have seen this in power and energy area, and then banking and finance. These are few of the familiar domains in which we are supposed to concentrate to give solutions for existing problems. So with these areas, I can simply say that whether it might be a automobile student, whether it might be a CSE or IT student, whether he belongs to any army or any other equivalent wing, whether he might be electrical or electronic or mechanical, anywhere you take the domain, there is a need of giving an automatic solution for existing problems. So data science is spread over each and every area of the industry in today's world. So now I can define data science with these three components: domain expert, mathematics, and then computer science. When it is coming to the maths, what area of maths is being used by a data scientist means it is statistics. And what concepts of computer science which is being used by the data scientist means it is machine learning. And what is the area with which a domain expert will be competing a computer science student means it is through data processing. The reason is here, an expert can understand data efficiently. If I, being a engineer, if I am asked to solve health-based problems, I will not be understanding each and every feature of that particular data set. I need to have assistant of a doctor or else one person who is being dealing with that. Then only I will be able to understand it. Even though I am a computer science student, I should also become expertise in a domain in which I am trying to find a solution for. Eventually, parallelly, the person who is dealing with this particular problem should also be good at math or mathematics. More precisely, I want you to understand that there is no machine learning without the involvement of mathematics, means statistics. So statistics normally goes with an understanding of basically probability. What is the probability of occurrence of this particular thing? Whether it is 60%, 70%, etc. and etc. And for any data scientist, even though he is very good at maths and machine learning, if at all he is not good at the domain, then that is going to put him into a failure region. That's the reason data scientist or data science is said to be a domain of study incorporating behavioral sciences, statistics, data mining, mathematics, information analytics, and predictive analysis. So many areas we have seen. Just I have given you five areas itself. But if you dig into this, each study is a big ocean for us. If you are expertise in one of this also, you will be given good perks in the industry according to your smartness. So a data scientist is supposed to use all these methods so that he can extract the efficient knowledge or reasonable knowledge which can be used to construct or fix up the solution of given problem. Now I have given you different study areas where a data scientist should be smart enough. So assume the data scientists have got all these things. Added to this, a data scientist should also know various other things with them. He should be knowing what are the tools he or she should be using for the algorithm to be executed and for the prediction he has to make. So the principal idea here is to identify what are the different kinds of tools he is going to identify, and also what are the type of algorithms he has to use in order to get the better predictions. And for this, the only one thing he has to concentrate is he need to understand the raw data. A data scientist should discover the hidden pattern from the raw data. He has to clearly understand what raw data is, how he can understand this raw data, how we can extract the data or relevant data, what he wants to execute or fix the automated model. Right. So I am landing up in one single word, which is very, very important in whole journey of data science study. That is data. Now, let us have focus for a couple of minutes on data. And okay, before that, we'll go with computer science. What all things we can do in computer science means, we know we are going to use certain techniques or tools in order to collect the data, clean the data, transform, analyze, and then predict and try to fix the solution. Second one, I told you the tool. Tool generally, we are going to take the help of one of the softwares. This programming software may be C, C++, C#, Java, etc. and etc. We have got many things. Out of these today, data scientists are looking towards the Python, even though the creation of Python has actually changed the perception or the view of a programmer. In general, the core companies, this is for your information, in core companies, people are looking at core programmers who can actually write the code in C or C++ or something like Java, because latter these can be reused by the programmers in order to establish the solutions. So Python is not allowing us to understand what is happening behind the package we have used. R is also doing the same thing. But when it is compared to R, today we are saying Python has actually spreaded widely in our area of data science. Added to this, we have got R, SAS, Weka, Azure ML. All these things are there, but all these are, industry maintained one. Weka also is being given. Weka is generally used in an area of data mining, a small part in data science or machine learning. Right? These are the two rules what a computer science student should be understanding. What is his strengths? What should be his strengths? His or her strengths. A computer science student should have a strength to understand rule number 1 and as well as rule number 2. Now, what sort of, why Python has become such a very big spreaded type of language? Because it has got certain automatic data transformation tools or packages like Pandas, NumPy, visualization package is there, which is directly can be used to show us graphs, the observation of our data, study of our data. Then we can simply fetch the algorithms using scikit-learn package. And then we have got TensorFlow in order to go for processing or thought processing which covers the area of AI in a field of computer vision and NLP. And most of the packages in general we use are something like this. You can see at it. And coming to data types, this data is normally based on a basic concept of data types is one of the heart of data science, and this is coming under a component called as mathematics. Mathematics is heart of data science. In mathematics, as we have discussed earlier, it is composed of statistics, and statistics is said to be the language of data science, right? And the type of data types here we are going to see are categorical and numerical. Categorical means what? I can define this categorical to be a person's gender. I'm trying to give you the examples. Categorical data, examples may be person's gender, the language, something like that. And when it is coming to numerical value, actually categorical can also be defined as numerical, but when you give, for instance, the gender male and female as 0 and 1, let us say, this 0 and 1 is not said to have any numerical value. Those are the representations for the categorical data called male and female. Whereas when it is going to the numerical data, this numerical data is normally can be defined as the discrete or continuous. Discrete or continuous. Categorical data can be further categorized into nominal or ordinal. And what is the basic difference between nominal and ordinal means? Nominal is going to represent discrete units, and it is going to be as labeled variable, whereas nominal data is said to have no order. Ordinal is same, but order is there, right? Nominal is same as ordinal. Added to nominal, ordinal has got one more feature, that its data is ordered values. Its data is what? Ordered values. Numerical data is said to represent in a discrete data and continuous data. And when it is coming to discrete data, its value are said to be distinct and separate. Whereas when it is coming to continuous data, this continuous data can be further described as intervals and ratios. Intervals and ratios may be defined as temperature, like for every half an hour interval, what is the temperature at this particular geographical area. Normally, it is said to have no zero values, but when it is coming to ratio, here we can identify absolute zero value. This is the basic difference between interval and ratio. These are different kinds of data. So based on understanding of categorical data and numerical data, you have to apply your machine learning algorithms. The reason why I'm saying you have to concentrate on this data means, generally, since I'm also using Python normally don't go with the categorical data, because categorical data is not understood by the system. It is not a numerical value. They are supposed to be converted into numerical value, and then they are supposed to be understood by the machine. So for that, direct packages are being given by the conversion packages, or conversion methods are being given, provided by the package, like one hot encoder and then labeled encoder. So whenever it is ordered, one hot encoder is used. Whenever it is not ordered, nominal, we can go for conversion using label encoder. Something like direct packages have been defined, methods have been defined in Python. Unlike Python, if you are using any other language, you need to write each and every conversion. That is the difficulty if you are not using Python in data science. Data science problem itself is so complex. that if you won't use Python, probably we'll be landing up in more confusion state. Now coming to statistics, statistics is divided into two categories, descriptive and inferential. Descriptive means what? Whenever you are looking for certain decision, and if that decision is existing, you directly take from the database and then you throw it out as an output. But when it is coming to the inferential, you identify current state, you apply certain processing techniques, and then you give the output. And this output is estimated and then tested. If it passes through this testing of hypothesis, then only the decision is made. Otherwise, it is not taken. So this is the difference between the descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. Okay, fine. I'll give you these things. And these are the 4 important areas of maths which are actually associated with data science and machine learning: statistics and probability, multivariable calculus, linear algebra, and optimization method. I thought if time was there, I would have explained all these things, but we are running out of the time. So just I'm skipping this. I'm just giving you the areas of mathematics. The reason for me to introduce this means my target is first year, second year, and third year students. And you guys need to understand the importance of mathematics you are studying right from your semester 1. I know you have the same different these areas as major portion in your M1, M2, M3, and M4, whichever discipline you are in. So all these 4 things are incorporated into your syllabus. So please take this seriously, and these areas are very, very important for your future. Right. So finally, I am landing up in giving you the life cycle of data science. So in a life cycle of data science, the first step is data acquisition. Data acquisition means what? Collection of data. Who will do the collection? Who will do the collection? The one who is doing the collection, from whom he has to take the data or collect the data, from the expert he has to take the data. The data acquisition is done from the data experts or domain experts. Domain expertism should be there. Otherwise, your problem may not be solved in an appreciable way. Once you collect the raw data, now we have to process the data. Now that processing we are calling as a step called as data pre-processing. All our cleaning process in machine learning is coming to this particular aspect. After the data is ready, clearing out all mismatches, unwanted data, and then ununderstandable format of data, precisely your data is now maybe called as structured data. The output of data pre-processing may be called as a structured data, or data is said to be in form of structured format. Now is supposed to go through analysis, and strictly we call this step as exploratory data analysis. In this exploratory data analysis, normally a data scientist is supposed to identify what the target would be, what the output would be, and what are the considerable inputs would be, so that the problem solution can be fixed in a appreciable manner. For this, he has to analyze the data. In order to analyze the data, the simplest method he can use, or the data scientist can use, is visualization. Once with visualization tool, he comes to one particular decision, he can understand what predictions can be made with existing data. Then he starts writing a program, and then it is said that 75% of time of a data scientist is spent in an area of this analysis, that is EDA. That is EDA. And then once this analysis is done, then a programmer is going to run the training model, means execute a training model, fix the training model, and then go for the testing. After testing is done, the measuring of performance is done. Once this is done, we are going for model building. Once we get the appreciation in better way, after EDA, we are going to fix for a appropriate model. And this appropriate model includes certain type of executions of machine learning algorithm, because it is true that it is not defined that some X type of data involves with certain type of machine learning, or certain type of machine learning leads some X type of data, something like that. No, such concepts are such equations are not being given in our machine learning area. If you have got the data, then that data should be implemented using all sort of machine learnings with all sort of parameters. Whichever is giving the best, that particular model will be fixed on as a appropriate model. So for this, it will be involving all supervisory learning, unsupervised learning, as well as reinforcement learning algorithms. So different set of algorithms with different kinds of parameter settings, data scientists will try to land up in a appropriate, appreciable model. After the model is being fixed up, then this model is used for the evaluation. So in the evaluation, if it is reaching with minimum errors, then that is said to be accepted, and probably sometime it can also be going as product into the industry. It can also be then called as a business model. So now here is a situation where this model can be deployed for making the real-time predictions. So these are the 6 steps data science is involved with. Now comes what are the actual roles which are being played by data scientists. So first step is to collect the data, what we are calling as specialists or experts. All type of data is being collected by the specialists, data collection specialist. Then output of this data collection specialist is given as input to the data analyst. Data analyst is going to analyze the data using different methods, and then his job is to draw certain patterns which may be used to draw an appropriate model. And then the output of data analyst is moving into the data scientist, and this data scientist is going to use the patterns which are being generated by the data analyst, and then these patterns are used in order to predict the expected output, or else it is used for clustering aspects, or else some other decision making solutions, right? So these are the data scientists. Now in the industry, if a data scientist is there, data scientist is said to have all these aspects inside it. That's the reason data scientist is said to be paid huge amount, then huge perk or huge salary when it is compared to the data analyst and data collection specialist. So data analyst should have what sort of skills? He should be having mathematics and statistics. He should be able to handling data, and he should be having knowledge. Handling data means he should be having support of today's tool, like understanding knowledge of today's tool like big data tool and technologies like Hadoop and all. And more concentratingly, I told you today's data is not structured, it is unstructured. So it is called as NoSQL database. And for that, they are going to use certain kind of databases called HBase, MongoDB, etc. and etc. Now these databases are used to store the unstructured data or partially structured data. This data analyst should be having the idea of this. And next, the data analyst should be having expertise in analyzing the data using certain visualization tools. And these visualization tools are easily done using the today's language like Python, R, with the existing packages like NumPy, SciPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and etc. Right? And a specialized tool called Tableau is also there for data analyst, which is going to help him to understand, analyze the data, and then visualize the data. Added to Tableau, we have got Microsoft Power BI, Oracle BI, etc. and etc. And they should have good communication skills as well as storage skills. Moreover, I should tell that logically, data analyst should be presenting his analysis in a story form so that customer can understand that logic easily. And what data scientist should be having? He should be having descriptive analysis, analytics, knowledge in descriptive analytics, and he should be having knowledge in predictive analytics. You know, descriptive and predictive analytics we have seen in our artificial intelligence as the language in which the artificial intelligence data can be represented as first order logic, zero order logic, n order logic. All these things we have studied in our artificial intelligence, right? So under predictive analysis, descriptive analysis is very simple. It has been described based on structured data. Already a framework or methodology is there, and using certain simple tactics or programming skills, we can retrieve the data. But when it is coming to predictive analysis, he has to take the live information, go for the current speed computation, and then the program should be able to take the decision at the earliest with the least amount of data, whatever the scientist is having or whatever the program is having. For this, he should have the latest predictive analytics tools, knowledge of latest predictive analytics tools, and then he should also have exposure to popular type of machine learning and deep learning algorithms and respective packages which can be used under Python and R. So finally, now I can say that data scientist is equal to statistician, programmer, he is a coach, he should be a storyteller, and he should be a artist also. This is the equation I have liked a lot to describe who the data scientist is. Now you can say what sort of jobs are being handled by a data scientist. That's the reason in the today's industry of our data science, data scientist is said to be the highly paid one, right? So with this, I'll end. Later, we have just extended things. So with this, I'll end. I hope you have got the data, what I want to tell you. If at all you are having any queries, you can please ask me.
Any queries from participants? Any queries from participants? Anyway, I hope nobody is asking, ma'am.
I don't know whether people have understood or not. Okay.
I hope the participants have gained the knowledge on today's session by Sarita madam. The topic is fundamentals of data science. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sarita ma'am, for your wonderful lecture. It was very useful and informative, ma'am. You have clearly explained about starting from what type of data we are using now and what is the difference between previous data and big data, and you have shown the difference between structured and unstructured data, and starting from the important domains related to the data science, that is the artificial intelligence, from the definition AI products, basic project products coming to, how many ways to use the data in data science applications, and all the layers of AI, data interpretation. For each and every layer you have explained with example, ma'am. Data interpretation, understanding causality, and for each and everything you told some examples also, even data deep causality and prediction techniques, and what type of tools we are using for prediction, explanation, observable and simulation optimization techniques. And coming to machine learning also, you have given the starting from definition and algorithms, and what is the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning. And you have shown case studies related to machine learning, that is a healthcare system. And you have given steps for doing any application with machine learning also. And finally, you have given the importance of data science with all these three areas: artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. And you have given that what is the importance of data science and what are the important parameters, domains, mathematics, and what is the domain knowledge is important for developing an application, and what is the what rules you have to follow by the computer science student, and types of data used for data science using Python, and tools required, what are the tools required for who are the roles are present, what type of data analysts are present for developing an application, and what type of skills needed for developing an application in a data science application with Python. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful lecture. You have explained with reference to the ongoing situation also, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, once again.
Thank you very much for summarizing, Subbu. I
Thank you,
don't know
ma'am.
whether students have got this or not. I appreciate if
Yes.
at all anybody get little bit of knowledge from my lecture.
Yes.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. I think any first year students are there, better to what areas are important for mathematics, madam told. Please, I hope you noted down that what are the important areas in maths, M1, M2, M3. Please concentrate while teachers are explaining. That's all. Once again, thank you, madam. Thank you all the participants also. Manisha, are you there, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarita ma'am, Subhashini ma'am, Kavita ma'am, Hari
Thanks.
Krishna sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarita ma'am, for such a useful and informative session. It was very useful, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Hopefully, ma'am. Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope it is of some use. Thank you, Hari Krishna sir, for staying and giving us encouragement.
Yes.
Thank you, Kavita Lakshmi ma'am.
Thank you, madam. It was indeed
Thank you very much, ma'am.
from the basics you have given all the knowledge to the students. But most of the students are, I think, first year, what I have seen from the roll number. So definitely they should give much importance in the mathematics part what you have given, which is very useful for the data science. So hope and actually I feel that this lecture can be given in 2 days. 2 days you can divide and further we can give in the next semester. Coming semester we can plan for them.
Yes, sir. We can plan for 2 sessions, sir. Machine learning and mathematics and machine learning.
Yeah, that is very much required because first years they don't know, they use all the mathematics they start with, but what is the application part you have given clearly. So such things are to be important in the first year itself because they should know where they are useful, then there will be more concentration onto that subjects.
Yeah, we can extend this webinar with that, sir.
Yeah, definitely.
Areas of mathematics in data science or machine learning.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, ma.